on here, sharing Let Alone. Welcome to another great episode of Beyond the Court. Today we have a special guest with us today, author, president, businessman, and also father of NBA player Kelly Oubre Jr., Mr. Kelly Oubre Sr. How's everything going, man?
I think it's going great. Thank you for having me. But before, housekeeping issue, and this is my little calling card now. So bear with me. I want y'all to do me a favor. Mimic my actions, okay? Symbolize washing your hands. Do this with me. All right? Show me your palms. Show me your backs. Show me your palms. Now let's get started.
All right.
Clean hands, all right? So the information I give you is information in real time, best I can. I just ask that you do the same. That's all.
Right. No problem. Yeah. Now, one of the questions we ask our guests, starting out with everything going on right now in the world, with COVID and, socially, like, how have you been doing with everything and processing everything since, 2020 to right now?
Honestly, I haven't missed a beat. I'll tell you why, because I always occupy my mind in other spaces also. I try to look at the world. I try to look at nature, try to look at history, and I try to take myself back and study what was here before us, what was here before me, and how were these similar type situations handled in the past. I think panic never got anybody anywhere.
Right.
I think level-headed, three-dimensional thinking and looking to the future with positivity benefits everyone. And of course, you're going to run into the woe is me crowd. At the same time, that doesn't mean that it has to be your crowd. Adopt that mindset. And I try to convey that into all the young ball players, the trusted advisors, the people next to the young ball players. That's what I consider my trusted advisors. It could be a parent. It could be a grandma, grandpa, or uncle or aunt. Anybody there that's a rider along with that young. I try to convey positivity to them and let them know that you have to stay positive because your actions are being watched all the time by your young dominant, young athlete. So just staying positive in the moment and always bringing your young dominant athlete back to center when they waver during these times too. And practice what I preach. That's why it's just natural to me to do so.
You're the president, Beastdevelopmental solutions-based company. Emphasis on, gather information in real time. Can you go into that and explain, to us and the audience, how did you come up with that concept? And can you break down the logo of your brand for us?
All right. Thank you for asking that question. I love it because it's my baby, my blueprint. I thought about it a long time ago. The inception of the word Beastdevelopmental came along roughly 25 or 12/9/95 when Kelly was born. Okay. It kind of grew legs maybe after that when I appreciate English and because I can paint a picture with my words. I said early on. So what it is Beastdevelopmental. It stemmed from a word called personification. Personification is giving human-like characteristics to animals. Okay. Now I flipped that word around and gave. If I use that definition reverse, I gave animalistic qualities to humans. But if you talk to a lot of young athletes, they want to be animalistic. They want to be, cat quick. They want to be a horse. They want to be a stud, that type of stuff. So that's how they I guess, they're built up in the media to be like almost like beastly, as opposed to superhuman, So I saw the pattern there. So I just played on the word and I flipped that definition. Now with the logo, if you look at my logo, you'll see Beastdevelopmental as the top, the word. That acts as my drone over the logo and the three entities involved on the sides of the logo, to the right, the bottom, and the left. Now, to the right, if you go clockwise, you'll see the trusted advisor. That's the team, along with myself at Beastdevelopmental, that supports the young diamond in the middle of the logo, if you look at it. Okay. Now, the young diamond will need constant support. But I try to strengthen my trusted advisors or my clarifiers, if you will, that the support will come at the most opportune and unopportune time in which you have to be at the ready to deliver information in real time, because that young athlete will call you 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and your talk track better be fresh and on point because they need you in that moment. You don't want to hear about I don't have that, or you're on your own. That's not the answer here. We need to have that information at the ready in real time, where we can present something fresh and new to them so they can have a new perspective as they go into that next day with a clear mind of positivity. If you look at the bottom of the logo, you see peers. Peers are the motivating factors a lot of times with our young athletes or young diamonds, because they want to be better than their peers. That's why I put peers at the bottom, young, middle of the logo, can fit on top of the peers, because they always want to be over their peers at every level: elementary, middle school, summer ball, college, pro. You want to be better than your peers. To the left is the governing body. That's the agencies or entities that set the laws that the young athletes must play by. So we have to be respectful of those three elements, along with the Beast Developmental drone hovering above, paying attention to all those elements. We want to be here as a support system to offer that information to the trusted advisor or clarifier and to the young diamond in the middle at all times. Not sometimes, not once in a while, but at all times. That's our support system we want to put in place, because we want to make them, I guess, for lack of a better word, the handsome kid at the prom always, or the beautiful young lady at the prom always also in their mind, because they want to feel special. A lot of parents and trusted advisors want to feel special. But that comes with doing the work and offering the supports as they transition into their respective crafts. So I hope I broke down the logo the best I could for you, and I gave you some insight how Beast Developmental came to be in concept first and now in application. And it's transcendent across all sports, all age groups, but I strongly recommend that we approach it with both trusted advisors and young diamonds as a team along with Beast Developmental, so we can this thing and offer the realistic that the young diamond can take from that point forward. Okay?
That's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you for the clarity, just breaking it down. And it's very important for the audience to know at all times, when you break it down like that, it's like, what do you, it's more behind, there is the name, and then it's the purpose.
Yes,
so it's very
ma'am.
important to understand what the purpose is that you're trying to inflect, So I want to ask you another question. What was your upbringing, and did you play sports as a child?
Yeah, I played local sports in New Orleans, New Orleans Recreational Department. Went to high school in New Orleans for 2 years. I started on Carroll School in Birmingham, Alabama, for 2 years. I moved from New Orleans to there for 2 years, came back to New Orleans for my final 2 years at Walter Cohen High School. And from there, I went on to University of New Orleans. Now, at the time, I didn't have support in place, financial, or I was a fringe ball. Okay, I tried to walk on for the team, but that didn't last long. So I had to be realistic about my approach moving forward. I either drop out of school and get a job, or I stay in school and just tough it out while working. I opted for the latter. I stayed in school and I kept working. Now, it took me longer to finish, of course, but that was okay, because at least my mind was occupied with something positive, and I was growing in the process. Even though I had to let my dream go, I didn't sulk, and I didn't have the woe is me attitude, because I knew if I kept working, developing my mind, I could still appreciate the game, study the game, and study the business aspect. That's what my degree is in, business management. And it all kind of is woven together like a if you will, because I can incorporate or infuse the lessons that I've learned from my schooling, my careers, and now into the realm of basketball to support my son as a young diamond, and I'm his trusted advisor and others just like him.
Since you were a single father, you work in multiple jobs, did you continue while, you just expressed about school? I mean, how was that for you, as a single father? And especially, I have to put the point in our community, which we know a lot of times the father is absent. So you are among not the few, but, in our community, it's more times the women, mothers like myself, raising the kids and have that percent. So here's the switch where father,
Right.
takes hold. How was that for you?
Well, I looked at it as my mission. When Kelly was born, my life, it wasn't changed. It was more refined. I had to make the sacrifices, whatever that may have looked like at the time, whether it is going to get 2 or 3 jobs or eliminating a job wasn't beneficial to us, he and I as a family. When he was born, I was married to his mom. We soon divorced, and I gained custody of Kelly right around 3 years old. And it's been me and him ever since. I've been married 2 times after that, but it wasn't quite biologically the same, if you understand what I'm saying. Because my mission was I never wavered from my mission, put it that way. No matter what outsiders came into play along the way, I was still locked in that first and foremost. And I was open to outside relationships, but at the same time, they weren't going to make me deviate from my plan with Kelly. He got his black belt roughly around the age of 8 years old. And I use that as a foundation layer for him to segue into other things of his choice, to move into basketball, which was very meaningful and poignant because it was right up my alley. I didn't have to force it on him. There's never been a day where Kelly didn't want to practice since that day, which made it really easy for me. I just put him in my pocket, basically, and brought him to the gym with me. And I see you smiling, and you know what that looks like. So, yeah, it was babysitting, but of course, it was a matter of convenience, too, because our bond became stronger and stronger over the years, and I was able to convey information to him and real-life anecdotes, and he saw exactly how I navigated in the business world, in the sports world, and how I always nurtured relationships, whether they were good or bad. And he had a chance to see it up close and personal, along with, and sadly enough, August 28th, 29th, 2005, Katrina happened, and we had a decision to make. The day before it made landfall, we opted to go to Houston, Texas, and we set up shop there. Now, soon after that, it was just me and him. My second wife decided she had other plans for her life, and that was fine. I still was not going to deviate from our plan here, guys. So if there's anything I can convey to my trusted advisors, be it man or woman, you have to support that diamond at all costs. And if you have to develop maybe a one-itis to support that young diamond, that is what you have to do. It's not an option. Life is full of options, but there's things that are not optional. Okay, if you want to lock in and be the best at what you're doing, or you want to be the one who maintains all the power throughout the process, you have to lock in and make the necessary adjustments. And of course, shout out to my single parents out there, both male and female. But shout out to the collective parents also who are doing this together, because I think
absolutely
exactly those support systems that are in place. If they're fractured, then who pays the ultimate price? The young diamond, the young child. If they're intact, they get a chance to see or hear 2 perspectives on the same situation. So there are benefits to, I guess, the single parenting life, because that's what our society has morphed into on a large scale for various reasons. And there's also definite benefits to the family unit as a support system also. So let's just take everything into account here. Let's not slight anybody. Let's not try to figure out the hows and whys of how the situation came to be. But at this point, as we know better, it's time for us to do better and lock in on the benefits of the young diamonds or young athletes that we want to service and help. Whether it be the young diamond who transitions into the business world, right, or trade school once their playing career is over. As a trusted advisor, you must be supportive of everything on the table, because we're trying to raise strong young men and young women here to be viable contributors to society as a whole.
Now, you brought up earlier, about Katrina, and I want to delve into that in a little bit. But I think your whole story is amazing, especially the things that you've been able to do with, whether it's, situations in life that come at you. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I thought was very remarkable was that, you were a special education teacher, for 4 years, and you actually won Teacher of the Year in Texas at Channelview Independent School. How was that feeling for you, knowing that, everything that you were doing, raising your kids and everything, but you're still able to be, Teacher of the Year in special education? What did that mean to you as a father?
Well, what I did was I locked my students in their special needs, because that's a commitment that we have to make as teachers. If I put my teacher's hat back on, Mr. Versa, I have so many hats, but the hat of daddy is the big wear. But if I put my teacher's hat back on, I lock back in their special needs, because they were all different. I had to develop education plans for them. And I had to gear those plans to their strengths and weaknesses, and to highlight their strengths and not make their weaknesses that much more glaring. They were already operating in a deficit intellectually already. So it was relatively, Mr. I don't say it was easy, because when you're in the moment and you're locked in, you're on autopilot anyway. So it seems easy, because it's almost like not practicing, but applying yourself in a way where it's what you're going to do. It's not what you're going to think about doing. And each of my students always had different needs. They always had different learning levels or abilities. They always had different, what we call, accommodations. Some kids may have to have had close proximity to the teacher, because they had to see my lips move as I was giving instruction. Some kids were nonverbal or blind, and they had to basically operate in a way with assistance, like Braille readers or sound clickers or things like that, of that nature. So imagine 6, 7 kids in a room with all having different needs, but trying to learn at the same time.
Wow.
And it's almost like that basketball team. Let's be real. Stop smiling. That basketball team where you have 2 guys that are not as athletic, one guy who's a star, and 2 more guys who are pseudo stars who want to be better than the first guy, but honestly, in their minds, they've been told you the man every day by their parents or their fake trusted advisors. Right. When they're not as good as the first 2 guys who are just trying their best. Right. So the personality gauge, the success or failure level or ratio here has to always be considered, but it always has to turn out to be a positive. And if I apply the special education blueprint or model that I use personally, it was just what I had to do. I had to think on the fly every day. Wow. Some days, some kids weren't feeling it. But in the midst of this, I still had a young man, and I miss my kids most of all, because I don't know what they're doing now or what they transitioned into. One of my students, he was wheelchair bound, and he needed to be diapered, he needed to be tube fed through a hole in his stomach. Yeah. And that was his lunchtime. Right. Lunchtime, and those things on him, because it was just part of my job. And I treated him no different than the rest of my students, because that's what the job entailed. So the Teacher of the Year accolade, yeah, it looks good on the plaque, but you know what though? I was just a regular teacher doing what I had to do, trying to balance the social aspects of high school for my young students with the educational aspect of high school. Sure.
On that, first, I commend you for being a single mom as myself. Okay.
Congratulations.
And raising 2 incredible daughters, both graduate from college.
Congratulations.
Than're
smile. You have to smile.
I am.
Hey, you know what I tell parents? You got to take your wins, all right? Take your wins.
Yeah, absolutely. They're my wins. And when people ask, how did you do it? Because, the field that I'm in with financial planning and everything else, it was difficult. But I said it was never difficult because, like you said, it's autopilot. Because my feeling was, The children didn't ask to be born.
Exactly.
You made the choice to bring it here. So
Exactly.
until they're independent and you give them the tools that they need to take care of themselves, that's your job. You made a choice. So, I also told my daughters, okay, you're finished with school when you finish college. So it wasn't like if you're going to college, it's where you going,
Gotcha.
where you going, But I just love what you're saying about the special eds with the kids because they're just the kids. It's just like another human being brought in to help these kids by God's grace and just doing what you do.
Yeah.
And they're no different, and they just want to have the best of that life can offer them given their circumstances.
Exactly.
So
Right.
John, what were you
Now
about to
you,
ask him? Go
I
ahead.
was going to say, you mentioned earlier about Katrina.
Right.
Now, you're living in New Orleans at this time, and I remember 2005 vividly. I was in college at the time, and I remember how just seeing it on the news, hearing about it. I actually have a cousin who lives in New Orleans during the time, or I'm sorry, he still lives in New Orleans. And at that time, we would have discussions and everything. What was that like for you and your family to go through, and what kind of impact did that have on you mentally in the city?
The sad part about it is, I'm gonna give you a little secret about myself. I think backwards sometimes, and it works for me. Okay, because I've been doing it for so long. Now, once again, I can't say it wasn't easy. It wasn't hard because it put a lot of strain on my marriage already. It was my second marriage, put a lot of strain on that, and eventually, about a month later, that strain had culminated to the point where my significant other had, she wanted to move on. Okay, but the Katrina aspect, I think I was just ready for change once again in my life and a reinvention of myself because I already had put in 13 years at UPS. And the kicker was I had one more class to go before I got my degree that they paid for with the corporate reimbursement program.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't owe them anything. I realized that UPS was not in my long-term anyway. So I used it as motivation to go to Houston, set up shop, get Kelly in school, work him out every day at Fitness because they offered a program. Though the new people in town, let me just say that. Now refugees, let's just say the new people in town could relieve stress at Lifetime Fitness for a whole month for free. So once again, back to the babysitting, in the gym, we're already used to this. So I just utilized our strengths at that point. And he had a chance to experience another state. He got put into a very good school in Houston. There's some very good schools. Shout out to Houston, Texas. And basically, I told him, you got to ride with me on this. We'll be fine. Just ride with me. So I went to UPS. I turned in my resignation because I realized had I stayed at UPS, they would eventually ask me to come back home once everything got up and running. And I at that point, after 13 years, I was done. So I can't say Katrina was a blessing, but it definitely was timely for us because I was ready to go anyway, honestly. And I'm just giving you the most honest answer I can because I want to once again let you know what frame of mind I was in. I was ready for whatever, and I was ready to take him through the fires that we needed to because I was going to protect him from everything he needed protection from. Because I realized on the back end he probably would come out of success if we were in a new place and he could actually live and not just be there to survive like I grew up in inner city New Orleans. Yeah. So all that played a part, and I'm not mad at anybody. I'm just glad that everybody's element right now. They're happy because we are, and we're happy in 5 minutes or 2 hours. We're just gonna throw that into the gumbo pot too, and we just gonna make it work for us.
Right. So, now I know you have been a tremendous example for your family. and especially, Kelly being young, and I'm sure he saw everything that a father is supposed to be, and more. When did basketball enter the picture for him? And what was that process like with him?
Strangely enough, he got his black belt at 8, okay? Mm-hmm. And maybe 3-4 weeks before Katrina, we went to the AAU Nationals in Disney, in Orlando.
Okay.
So a bunch of daddy coaches walking around. You know what this looks like.
Sports dads.
Exactly. Well, I'm sorry. I call us washed up daddy coaches. All right.
Right.
So before I knew it, by the end of the week, it was the first time I had 30 business cards in my pocket because I was talking to people. I was breaking bread. I was fellowshipping. I was coaching. But I was talking daddy talk and tying it into basketball with all these guys standing around that look like me.
Right.
So 4 weeks later, Katrina happened. I still got these 30 on a dresser in my house, right, with a rubber band around it. Strangely enough, they were from guys all over the country. Mm-hmm. 5 of those guys were from Houston. So I got to Houston. I didn't know anybody. I had cards with me. Started looking through them, and I made a couple of phone calls. Hey man, I'm here now. Who's the hot team in town?
Right.
Positioning Kelly at that moment, in the baby stages, 4th grade at this point. Who's the hot team in town? Because it looks like we're gonna be here for a while, and I want to start him out on the fast track or in somebody's pipeline, and hopefully graduate to the highest level or the one team in town concept once he reaches that 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade level. 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade level. Mm-hmm. So they know who he is. He's established. His body has changed at that point. Mm-hmm. And he's a man now, basically. Oh, I'm sorry. He's a young teenager ready for college. But it started back with the business card concept. That's why I would strongly encourage my trusted advisors to talk to the parents around you that are realistic, that are not trying to think that their kids are pros in the 3rd grade. Let's be real.
Right.
Right. Running pros who have it no other way. But normally that's the ones who either over practicing the kid or not practicing the kid at all, with the high expectations on Saturday morning, with the You the Man speech on the way to the game, the You the Man speech on the way home, and hopefully that kid had a good game because the trusted or the fake trusted advisor turns into a justifier at that point. And a justifier is somebody who doesn't do the work. They just show up to the race for the accolades, and hopefully that justifier masking as a clarifier is not in their feelings about the kid having a bad game or a bad weekend, because he was destined to fail anyway by their hand and not his.
Right.
So the Katrina thing, it was pre-Katrina with the 30 business cards that morphed into connections in Houston. And I'm still calling DC, Baltimore, California, everywhere, all over the country, just checking on guys. They're checking on me. Hey man, y'all good? Y'all good? Yeah, man, we good. We getting our feet wet in Houston. Well, who y'all with? You can come run with us in Virginia if you want to. You can come to California. We got a spot for him. Because, because of me as a trusted advisor, being positive and vibing with them, and him as a young ball player, being able to acclimate into any situation. Mm-hmm. This all went into, once again, it went into that proverbial gumbo pot for us in our blueprint. Okay. He did 3 years at George Bush High School in Houston, Texas. Okay. And the coach there had plans for Kelly. And Mr. Birdsong, you know what plans look like when a high school coach talks to a college coach. Right. Yeah. Right. Problem was, I was in charge. Right. Mm-hmm. I'm the trusted advisor, coach. Right. All I'm running is your mouth right now, okay? So, so just coach and let me take care of what I got to do. Right. He's not going to the University of Texas like you sent the other guys to. Mm-hmm. Because if the head of the conference comes and checks him out in high school, why would I waste my time sending my son to a school that was offering a scholarship that wasn't the winner of the conference for the last 10 years in running? So the coach's attitude changed when that head coach showed up from Kansas, put it that way. Because he knew he had no, that he couldn't get anything from that coach in exchange for a young athlete coming to his university.
Right.
That 12th grade year, I sent Kelly to Findlay Prep because he had already run through Houston already. You know, he already was playing guys that were a year advanced or 2 years advanced over him. And he really didn't even know a lot of the guys in his graduating class because he never played with them, because he was playing summer ball and school ball. And you know how different it is when you're on the shoe circuit, Nike and Adidas, and you go back to high school. It's almost like a man among boys, and that's what he looked like. He come to me one day, he says, going into his 12th grade, the junior summer, after summer ball. Yeah, Dad, I'm gonna drop 50 a night this year. I said, no, you're not.
Now, did you tell him he's not because you didn't think he was capable because of the competition, or why did you say that he wouldn't drop 50 a night?
As hungry he was, he could have dropped 60 a night. But
you took the system.
Yes, the competition.
Right.
I'm like, you won't learn anything.
Right.
What you're gonna do is be dominating kids that are basically scared of you because you're like the freshman showing up with all the talent because they had never seen you before. You know, even if they played with you for the last 2 years, you go and play basically in an incubator every summer against 5-stars like yourself.
Right.
So that sharpens you, that hones you, that makes you hungry and aggressive, because the talk track on the Nike circuit, EYBL, is different than the talk track at the high school. And Kelly had been traveling between the Adidas and the Nike circuit since he was 5th grade. So if we go into 11th grade, that's 6 years of constant sharpening, honing, letters, accolades, visits, break fellowship. A lot of the guys in the NBA right now I grew up with anyway. That 0.003% is real strong. I'm sorry, 0.003% is real strong, and it's been a brotherhood for a very long time. Now, to answer your question, Karen, it's Kansas came calling, and we get 5 official visits. You get 5 visits to go to five colleges you're thinking about. I think it's 4 or 5. I think it's 5. I think it's 4 or 5. The problem with that was Kelly was already at Findlay Prep. When I sent him to Findlay Prep, my friend was coaching. I told him, I said, he's not coming here to be recruited. I'm taking care of that also. I hadn't compromised myself or taken any money along the way, so nobody really had much intel on him that they didn't have to go through me to try to get. A lot of people didn't like that in Houston because pretty much going into that showcase year, the option on the table was, well, he could be a McDonald's All-American, but we don't know if we're going to be able to take 5 more guys out of Texas this year. And my thing was, well, let me guess who's going to be the odd man out. The kid y'all never co-signed to begin with, or the kid that ain't from here. So let me make it real easy for y'all to send him to Findlay Prep, well, he'll be the #1 kid in Nevada, and he's a guaranteed McDonald's All-American and Jordan Brand Classic All-American. Because I don't want to make y'all a job y'all thought y'all had too hard, but I control the whole time. So McDonald's All-American, Jordan Brand, Under Armour, USA Today, yada, yada, yada. The rest is history. But segueing into Kansas, we took an unofficial visit to Late Night in the Fog. He flew in from Findlay. I met him there. We sat about 3 or 4 hours together at the game. It was like a pep rally. Talked to Coach. Of course, he went off and did his thing. Don't smile, Mr. Birdsong. He went off and did his thing. And whatever that thing looked like, so we met back up. He said, Dad, what do you think? I says, look, go to USA. He was leaving for USA Basketball in Colorado in the morning. I said, go to USA Basketball, go back to Findlay after that, I'll talk to you Tuesday. Talked to him Tuesday, because what do you think, Pop? Said, you have 4 more visits, unofficial, but I don't think we need them. He said, what do you mean? I said, I've seen all I needed to see. I see an opportunity here, and I don't have to go waste 4 other people's time and money to make my initial decision when I've seen all I needed to see. But I need you once again to just ride with me on this. I got a feeling. All right? Because what I did was I studied the dynamics of the team at Kansas. There's a lot of upperclassmen. And Coach Self wasn't big on one-and-done players, but the year before he had to watch Andrew Wiggins and Joel Embiid go one and done. So all that is playing in my mind as I develop, when I continue to tweak our blueprint here. Okay, there was a spot open, all right, and opportunity was there. I couldn't say that about the other 4 schools that we could have visited. And quite frankly, I'm not good at wasting people's time. I'm not good at lying. Do it.
Right.
Because I can't remember what lie I told yesterday or 5 minutes ago. So I'll just tell the truth and keep it moving.
Exactly.
So that's part of the Kansas story. It was interesting because I don't know if they were Kelly. I don't know if Kelly was first choice. Because one of the assistant coaches who recruited him says, when he first saw him, he says, yeah, I would have come to, he came to a game. He says, I would have come early, but the kids' game down the street ran long. So I looked at him, I said, so Kelly wasn't your first coach? And he just stepped back and he looked. And he cleverly wiggled his way out of it, but I knew exactly what time it was. Because in our eyes as parents, our kids are our first priority and our first choice, and they're special to us. And quite frankly, that didn't deter me from Kansas. I just saw it as more opportunity there. And once I met Coach Self, it kind of strengthened my resolve about the University of Kansas because, you know, I knew that he could possibly be a one-and-done candidate with upperclassmen around him playing basketball, which is also was the method to the madness. You can't get that a lot where you have 4 other upperclassmen playing on your team and you're the one freshman eventually starting with them. So that was beneficial to Kelly. I don't know if that was beneficial to anyone else, but it was beneficial to Kelly.
Right.
So I hope I answered your question.
Yes.
Now you actually have, you know, you have a lot of parents who go through that process, recruiting, signing the schools, all of that. I want to ask you a quick question before I get to my next question. You talked about how he came through high school. Now, he had a very successful, 1 year at University of Kansas. After he leaves Kansas, he declares for the NBA draft in 2015. As an educator yourself, and this is going to lead me to my next question. As an educator, did you want him to stay in college, potentially and get a degree, or did you look at the economics and say, okay, it's your decision?
No, didn't want him to stay because his market value is so high, first of all. Second of all, if you're leaving, I asked him to do 3 things for me when he was at Kansas. Remain in good academic standing, practice like a pro, and destroy the guy in front of you. Because I know if he remained in good academic standing, Kansas would have to honor him after he leaves. So, because it looks good on them, good on the athlete.
Right.
When he comes back, once his career is over, he goes to Kansas, and he can pick up where he left off.
Right.
Okay. Now, practice like a pro means you're only going to be here 1 year, man. I know that, and I want you to know that. Okay? Kill everything in front of you because, strangely enough, he wasn't starting when we went into the beginning of the season. But by conference play, mysteriously he started starting, which means that the Big 12 has no blueprint on him. They have no footage, no film. And I'm talking to him the whole time. I said, well, now it's time to eat because they don't know you. And it's like that backup quarterback syndrome. He's going to look good on the first. Nobody knows what he can do. I said, well, we got to keep the backup quarterback syndrome going for as long as possible. And thank you, Kansas, for benching him in the beginning of the season. And I think the consensus was that since the university or the coach had called back to Houston wondering how do I deal with the data, they had no intel on me because I never really took anything or I never compromised myself. They didn't know how to answer him.
Right.
So he was probably sitting there waiting on multiple phone calls about why the kid's not playing or how dare you. I didn't say anything.
Right.
And that kind of threw him off too, because how do we play this situation out if he has no feedback? He's not calling us, complaining. But I was talking to Kelly the whole time. So I think those three things: good academic standing, practice like a pro, and kill everything in you. He played well into our hands, and Washington took a flyer on him at the 15th pick. And shout out to the Wizards for their initial investment in Kelly. Because I always tell people, Kelly did 1 year at he graduated from Georgetown. And I say that because it's a joke, because the owner, the head of marketing, the vice president of the Washington Wizards at the time, the guy in front of him, and the gym we played in all was affiliated with Georgetown University. So you're using this next 3 years that you would have been in college to be groomed under the Georgetown system while you're getting paid for it at a professional level, if you follow what I'm saying.
Right. And that's going to lead me to my next question about he gets drafted, and you always see on TV, the parents are there, family members, they're hugging and all of that. As a single father, forget the basketball for a second, just to have your son graduate, you put him through high school, then he goes to Kansas, he's successful at Kansas. Now you have an NBA player as a son. What was that feeling like for you to realize that you have a son through all of that and everything you all had been through up to that point? He has now realized his dream as well as yours.
I asked Kelly going into the draft, I said, Kelly, who do you want at the draft? He said, I want my mama, I want you, I want my mom, I want my sister, I want my brother. His mom has 2 other kids. I want my sister and my brother, and he wanted his girlfriend at the time. That was it. That's what he wanted in the green room with him. I asked him because I wanted to honor his wishes. When he got picked, his mom looked at me. She says, why aren't you crying? I says, because I'm all cried out. I've been crying for 8 years. I'm done crying. I was crying when I dropped him off at the airport to go on AAU tournaments 40 times between the 5th grade and I guess his 11th grade. I couldn't go on because I was too back in Houston working to keep a roof over our head, to keep food in the fridge. I couldn't go on all the time, nor did I even ask to go on all the terms. I wanted him to go out, become hardened to the system, and for lack of a better expression, get kicked in the behind, by the people that claim to love you so much, but they only love you as far as you can take them and your talents can take them, but all your debts can be paid for in sweat equity and not by a compromised parents who has to give something back for what they took. So I think draft night was a special night. It was nerve-wracking. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. But I was ready for the moment. In the summer, we were finally where we belonged the whole time. Because I think I played a little part in will it into existence. Mm-hmm. He did his part. I did my part. And I'm glad his family shared it with him, his immediate family. But I still was on an island by myself, knowing that not only had we arrived anywhere, but he was back to being damn near a baby again, going into a situation of grown men. Yeah. So Beastdevelopmental had to kick in again, because now we're back to the infantile stages, and you're getting paid to play a game where there's expectation level now, and your will be continued on your performance.
Right. On that note, I wanted to share with you, within our community, I would say education is the key to being rised up. And one of the persons I completely always admire is Lucille O'Neill, Shaquille's mom, because I consider her a mentor when I was in Orlando. And I always remember that, Shaq said to his mom, he promised her that he will get his degree, okay, and he moved forward. And, people don't realize his mother is Dr. Lucille O'Neill, by the way. And Shaq would always tell people, reason why he's Dr. Shaquille O'Neal, because he got his degree, he went on to the master's, and then he said, Mom went and got a PhD, so I can have her show me up. She's like, okay, you got your master's, that's good. Yeah, I will got my PhD. So that being said, it's so important when I look at, Shaq and, a lot of guys, since I have been working with retired players for so many years, they're part of their family, is that it's so important, the programs now in place that allows the athletes to go finish their education. Because in the business and, having a father like you about the business of basketball, the business end, of basketball. You can play in the NBA and be drafted right out of high school, but you cannot get a job in the NBA without a degree, college degree.
Now, he's been in the league now 6 years. He's currently with the Warriors.
Sure.
What kind of impact have you had on his career right now? And what kind of advice do you give him? I mean, we all know what comes with, the NBA. And, at times it could be, distractions on the court or off the court. How do you keep him focused as a father, but also, as somebody he looks up to, obviously, in that aspect of keeping him on track with the way everything is in the NBA?
Well, on a large scale, I'm the only he listens to. Like I said, clarify as a clarifier and have it hold weight, because I'm willing to clarify why the answer is no. A justifier says yes because they're trying to fit in all the time. They don't want him to be mad at them, so they'll keep trying to justify why they're in the first place. So the clarifier, justifier, point, counterpoint, only knows that really matters to him because he's been so trained and conditioned to hear all the justifiers around him say yes to everything and get him in trouble. Okay, as a clarifier, I can go back and bring him back to center after the worst games of his career or the best games of his career and put it back into perspective for him by snapping my fingers. Because I try to remain even when I show him the value of remaining heel,
right,
and how that would be beneficial to gear his conversation and his thought process around the team and his family. Because the minute you start with too many I's, you look selfish, and that can be flipped and used against you. So, just with Beastdevelopmental, we train our young diamonds to navigate through the media. We also train them to navigate through the day-to-day and to rely on the clarifiers or the trusted advisors around them because they believe in them, not because they have to or they've been scared into doing so, which, has the young athlete building up himself in the process along with a trusted advisor, probably one of the only people the young athlete really trusts at the end of the day, because at some point, the justifiers just become one of many. I was speaking at the National Bar Association a couple years ago to the entertainment and sports division attorneys. And their main questions were centered around how can we get next to or close to the young athletes? Well, first you have to show value at a very early age, pre-high school.
Exactly.
And because after high school or in the middle of high school, you become one of many. They don't know if they can trust you. They don't know who you are or what you can deliver or bring to them in the future or in the moment. That's why the role of trusted advisor or clarifier is so important. vet these things out, or these people out, and to formulate relationships like the 30 business card concept that trickles into the professional realm too. You want to make strong connections with proven men or proven women who actually are not enamored by large sums of money.
Exactly.
Or the lure of large money and the sharpening of their honeymoon phase. So I keep my circle very skinny for that reason. I picked his financial team the second time around because, sadly enough, the first financial team didn't realize it, but I used them to practice on. And when they see this, they're going to realize just how, but it didn't just stop with them. It started with the other people involved too. Once I realized that they were snakes or the honeymoon phase was over for them, I noticed a change. Now, once again, as a daddy, first of all, biggest hat I wear, trusted advisor, clarifier, I needed to make that change at that point for his benefit. If I didn't make that change, I can't say I didn't know I was swimming with snakes. Or I was surrounded with sharks or snakes, because there's no more plausible deniability here. Knowingly going forward at that point, knowing what I knew, either required change or required my complicity.
Yep.
In my son being not put in a position to win, put it that way. What's that daily? I mean, like I said, at 25 years old, I mean, the world is your oyster with a pocket full of money. But now he's understanding his young manhood. He's engaged, and he's in love. And I've always wanted, along with the daddy hat, I've always wanted my son to experience what love was from a feminine woman. Because I don't mean to go another direction. A lot of our youngsters will not experience, our young males will not experience love from a feminine woman, because the roles seem to be reversing right in front of our eyes. So it's sad, but kudos to you for raising young, prominent Black women, and stressing that femininity point, your point on your part, while I'm stressing the masculinity point on my part. Makes for a stronger, our stronger community. That's just
absolutely
right. And all of that, that all ties in. I don't think that
it does.
I don't think that goes a different direction. That all ties into what we teach these kids in our program and all of that. And actually, with you having, Beast Developmental, you obviously, all the accomplishments that you've had and the experiences that you've been through, what would your message be to youth coming up who are obviously they're watching this, and also just out in the community, as far as a pathway to stay focused, be successful in like, if they're in need of guidance, I should say, what would your message be to them?
The first message I would, if you can, it's not going to be taught to you where you are. Do your best to look at as many YouTube videos and read as many books about our place on this earth pre-slavery.
Exactly.
Because we were in rulership in the Byzantine Empire. We were in positions of power in the Greek and Roman and Kemetic mystery schools. We were in positions of decision making. It wasn't the flighty fast food society that we see today. We had real weight and clout, and we were in positions to make decisions, because I spoke on a pod yesterday, and the young man was Caucasian, and I told him the same thing. Because a lot of our youth, no matter what ethnicity they are, they don't realize that at some point we all had to work together, because the barbarians were at the gate.
Exactly.
And in medieval times, they weren't coming to talk.
Nope.
Right.
They will come to take your castle. Now, you can sit up there and fight about who's blacker or who's whiter or who's African or who's not. Okay, keep talking.
Right.
But when that door comes down, they're not coming here to talk. No. So if you're behind the walls of that castle, Once again, and I'm glad I brought up Castle. If you look at my logo for Beast Developmental, you see how thick the walls are around the diamond. That's his empire. That diamond sits in the empire. Okay? Reinforced by the drone up top, and to the right, the trusted advisor. We can't account for the peers or the governing bodies, but we can support with Beast Developmental as a whole, overseeing everything, and trusted advisors being educated and reinforced with whatever message may be the hot button topic of the day, or if that young diamond has aspirations to further their career in any direction. Any direction. So I'm a little Machiavellian, if you can't tell. Three-dimensional approach, 48 laws of power. Dr. Ivan Van Sertima that came before Columbus. The ISIS papers, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. I throw it all on Kelly's plate. Now, he never was ready to receive it until now, because he realizes with our current social justice movements how they never really lock into the plight or the fate of young Black men. If we're not entertaining, then it's almost like they have no use for us. So I think, once again, that three-dimensional approach I stress here at Beast Developmental covers the bases, no matter what color you are, because we're respectful of all nationalities, but at the same time, we're realistic in our expectations.
That you're working on a manuscript and a documentary. Can you tell us a little bit about that, about your life?
It's gonna be I guess I wouldn't say a day in the life. It'll be a tutorial, if you will, or a look back, a look now, and a look into the future. In a three-dimensional approach, of course, I wouldn't be doing Beast Developmental a good service if I didn't try to paint the full picture here and the possibilities moving forward. I can't say what I'm not going to put in with regards to the social justice movements of today, but what I can say about what I would put in there is messages of positivity, the reason for strong foundations and blueprints, and the reason for, to your point, knowing who you are every step of the way, not just sometimes, and being able to convey, your name. I told two young guys last week on the pod, two high school kids. And I asked them their names, and they told me only their first name. Well, look, from now on, I want you to say your whole name when you introduce yourself. Because I noticed that the time I spent in Alabama back in 9th and 10th grade was vastly different from the time I spent my whole life in New Orleans. Because in New Orleans, people introduce themselves by one name only. That's Mr. Jim. That's Mr. Joe. That's, Miss Tammy. But when I got to Alabama, I noticed that people that didn't look like me introduced themselves by their whole name. So from that point forward, I became Kelly Oubre. And if I tell anything to my young diamonds out there, introduce yourself by your whole name, because you want the world to know your whole name, so they can see you as a whole person associated with your name. And as you introduce yourself fully, then they may look at you in a different light, or they'll know exactly who they're talking about in good times. So it's almost like you're training your audience to recognize you. I'm thinking backwards here, kind of subliminally, three-dimensional, but it's a training, if you will. I'm going to train you to see me. I'm going to articulate these things so I can train you to hear me. And 48 laws of power. Of course, my first one is the first. Never outshine the master. Let's establish who the master is. I am the master of my own fate. Let's get that started right now. So I'm going to train you to deal with me as a master. And I can respect you as such if you present yourself in that light. Okay.
Now, with everything you've been through in life, what to you, is your biggest accomplishment thus far, with all the success that you've had as a parent and as a businessman, even with your business and everything you have going on? What's your biggest accomplishment to Mr. Kelly Oubre Sr.?
Well, honestly, man, this might sound funny. The biggest accomplishment so far to this day is holding my little tiger by the tail, but not holding him back.
Oh,
You know,
you got me there. You got me there, Kelly. You got me there.
Beastdevelopmental. I mean, yeah, without holding him back, still being in a position of power as daddy,
Right.
trusted advisor at the highest form. Whereas we've come through many gauntlets together. Let me just say that. We have weathered many storms, no pun intended with Katrina. We've dealt with many famines. We've dealt with many slights. We've dealt with many successes and many failures, many rumors, many extortion attempts. We've, you know, but you know, through it all, I watched him grow, and I'm watching him grow, and I'm watching him become a man, and it gets sentimental. So that's my biggest accomplishment: holding my little tiger by the tail, but not holding him back.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's my dog, man.
Yeah, that is. That
Which one you want, the left hand or the right hand? I mean, take both of them. You know, you want the feet? Take the feet too, man. We good.
Right. You know, here at American Ballers, again, we preach education, everything you've described to us, you know, even with Beastdevelopmental, you know, all those aspects of life across the board. You know, to you, what does being, you know, an American baller mean to you?
You know, and I'm going to say this in a Beastdevelopmental approach, because I want to leave this on the plate of everyone who comes within an earshot of this podcast. I've said this before, and I'm going to put it out there into the universe. I would strongly advise those who support our youngsters these days to be there for every step of their journey and not for the convenient steps of your own, you know, and care, and actually care.
Care.
And care, and show that you care. I'm not saying you have to try to impose, you know, your beliefs on it, but let's just be honest with ourselves, like I said, and what we know to be true, let's reinforce those truths. What we know to be false, let's eliminate those falsehoods, and not perpetuate them. Try to make the false true and the true false.
Right.
So
powerful message.
Yeah, and you know, this journey started a long time ago personally, but it's grown, and I'm an observer, and I can sit in a meeting with CEOs, or I can sit in the dirtiest gym in America and just be in the same element, because when I do it, when I go to Kelly's game, I put my earbuds, because I don't need a soundtrack. When I watch games at home, I turn the sound off. I don't need a soundtrack. I don't want to hear your opinion. I don't want to hear your accolades. I don't want to hear your slight. I don't want to hear it. I go into my own world, and I don't need the background noise, because I know what I'm looking at. I know the game enough that I don't need the background noise. So that's something that is part of my blueprint, Sharon. I don't know what other people will find normalcy in. And quite frankly, when Kelly's playing, I put my earbuds in and I turn classical music on. But it's like poetry.
I was just thinking that when you said that, I was thinking that sounds like poetry in motion when you're watching the game. Yeah.
I said it's a music. It works for me. I don't know if it works for anybody else.
Right.
But if there are any trusted advisors, parents out there that want to have a calm place where they're not in their emotions during the game, or their blood pressure is not going through the roof because they're so nervous for their young athlete, put some earbuds in and put some classical music on and calm yourself in that moment. It works for me. It always has. Might look a little crazy because I'm not jumping around, but I'm not here for that stuff. I'm here for the work.
Right. Mr. Oubre, you know, we appreciate it. You know, appreciate your time. You know, we love to have you on again, time permits. So I just want to thank you again for all your time, and best of luck with everything going forward with you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate you both, Sean and Sharon. Just continue doing what you're doing. And I always tell my podcast this, in our current era, I think we are going to need transfers of information, transfers of factual information, because sadly enough, far too many of our media are too busy running from Twitter. Because it moves so fast. It's like that little cat meme when the cat is typing so fast he can't type fast. But Twitter is right there at somebody's fingertips. I guess with X amount of characters or whatever they do or have. But I think just keep doing what y'all are doing. I appreciate y'all. I really do. Thank you. And once again, welcome to Beastdevelopmental.
Welcome, and thank you again from American Baller. So I will leave it the same. That's a wrap, and we look forward to our next session.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Appreciate it, Mr. Oubre. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.